Okay, so I'm very excited to have this second interview today with an ETH professor. So maybe give us a short introduction about who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Lothar Thiele and I'm the so-called Associate Vice President of ETH for Digital Transformation. It's a very complex name, but I'm responsible for the strategy of ETH in the area of digital transformation.
When you have to make a definition for digitalization, what would it be?
Well, I think digitalization is a term that is very old, and it's related to taking something that is in our environment and digitize it so that it can be processed by a computer. If you look at this, it is something that now goes to a new era because not only humans put these data into the computers, but there are lots of objects around us. Look at Internet of Things, wearables, medical devices that are doing this autonomously.
Mm-hmm. When you look at your personal life, and let's say your life at the ETH, how does digitalization affect you?
Well, of course, everyone understands that we are constantly interacting with the usual media. Mm-hmm. But of course, also we see that more and more intelligence is behind the scenes that is affecting our life. There are new business models that we observe in our daily life. Mm-hmm. Many other things are still at the horizon, but definitely, if you look around, more and more objects are around us that collect data and try to gather information.
When you look in the academic world,
yes.
Where do you see, let's say, the biggest digital pushbacks?
If you look at research, digitalization and the digital transformation has a big influence on how science is done nowadays. And there are people who think that this is not the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. Just say what it means, okay? We talked about the data that we are collecting. Mm-hmm. And the next point related to digital transformation is how we process these data in data centers and how we make meaning out of these data, information and knowledge. Now in science, this has a special impact, okay? Because the way how this is done nowadays is what is called model-free. So you just take the data and hope that you get information just out of the data, so a bit simply speaking. And the classical way is that humans think how could the processes be, make a model, and then collect data. And that is a paradigm shift in science, and it's something to see whether it really gets what it promises.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at past case studies, maybe at the university, what do you see as, let's say, successful digitalization?
Let me say two interesting projects at ETH. Okay, one is in an area that it's somehow not expected. Okay, we know that building industry is going industry on a little bit slower pace than the others in terms of improvement of the efficiency. So there's a great project. The project I like is related to put digitalization in architecture and also civil engineering in two aspects. Of course, the design aspect, but also the building aspect. Let robots help to build buildings. And this frees the architects from the previous constraints that humans need to build these buildings. Another thing that I like a lot is a project called Cyan. I think we all know that digital transformation has also the risk of security and cybersecurity. So it's a project that is currently in discussion in many places all over the world and also Swiss banks. What does it do? It secures the internet in the sense that it's provably resilient against certain attacks like denial of service, but also rerouting of packets.
Where do you see, let's say, the biggest opportunities of digitalization?
So I think there are two opportunities that are usually done at industry. One is improving the processes, internal processes, but also exchange with partners, the whole value chain. And the other opportunity is starting from this, new business models to get into contact with customers in different ways, personalization, new user experiences. So these are the two things. And actually companies very often start with the first one, trying to understand, at least established companies, trying to understand what can they do in order to improve their own processes. And then, of course, also to try to understand what kind of new business models are possible.
One last question about, let's say, Switzerland on a global scale. Where do you see Switzerland being positioned in the digital world in the future?
One thing one should observe is that from the educational perspective, but also a fundamental perspective, Switzerland is very well set up. has several excellent worldwide leading universities in the area of all the necessary technologies with lots of connections. Especially Zurich also has a very rich environment in terms of startup companies, in terms of Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and all these companies around Zurich and doing research and development. On the other hand, in terms of companies, I think they had a slow start, but if I observe things correctly, due to the well and great economic situation currently, they're investing a lot in what we call digital transformation.
Very good. Good. Thank you so much for taking the time.